Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy Manga Drew, and I'm here to do my episode breakdown for My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 10. And to start off, this episode of My Hero Academia, titled Ones Within Us, covers 3 chapters, chapters 286, 287, and 288, as well as 2 pages from chapter 289. And when it comes to this episode, for the most part, the first minute or so is just what we saw at the end of last episode. Bakugo trying to come in and save the day, as well as All For One taking over Tomura's body to attack Deku. And from there, we get a new added scene that wasn't in last episode of a shift or perspective change of seeing actually Bakugo coming in, taking the hit, and moving Deku out of the way. So even though the scene itself may have been reused, they did add something new to the scene to make it a little bit more different. And after we see that Bakugo is injured heavily in that attack, we get to see Deku beginning to go into a rage mode. What is new about this, in difference from what we got in the manga, is that we actually get to see the transition happening a little bit more. Black Whip beginning to consume his body as we get the user of Black Whip coming in and chiming in, as we have the user of Black Whip coming in and reminding us what happens when Deku is unable to control his heart and when rage takes over. So the transition itself is done amazing, as well as it also does well, hinting at one of Deku's new quirks, as we also get to see the animated scene of Deku coming in and attacking Tomura Shigaraki in this moment, when there's a little bit more added scenes of Deku fighting through the riveted stabs as he gets and approaches All For One in that moment, in comparison to the manga where he just appears right in front of him after allegedly destroying whatever attack was coming his way. So like I said, we're getting a little bit more of the added aspects in the anime that was not necessarily in the manga, as well as we get a clearer understanding of what's going on in these scenes, especially in the scene where All For One is trying to take One For All from Deku in that moment. How it plays out pretty similarly in the anime as it does in the manga, but we do get a small added scene that appears to show Deku beginning to pass out right before we transition into the Vestige world. And I want to point out that we do get something added to this moment of a transition going from the outside world into the Vestige world, and how this transition is being used as a rainbow techno color that goes from the outside world into the Vestige world. I love how the tunnel itself is representing the colors and the rainbows as seen in One For All every time we see the connection that One For All has to the other users. Pretty much this is where the bulk of the episode is going to be taking place, within this Vestige world. And I do like the aesthetic that they are giving to the Vestige world in this moment in comparison to how it looked in the past episode. And it seems to be a little bit more comic booky and a little bit more shading and a little bit more darkness in this world than we've seen in the other versions of the Vestige world, so I really wanted to point that out because I like it. And before we get more into the Vestige world, there's actually cutting over to the outside world where we get to see more of Gigantomachia's destruction, as well as we get to see an interaction between Ida and Nejire. Even though this interaction was in the manga, I want to point out an added moment that wasn't in the manga. And it's when Ida is describing his interactions between Shoto and Deku and how they've changed him and brought him down the path that he is on right now. We just get a small moment of Nejire smiling before she gets a little bit more serious, and they begin to continue to head to the location where Endeavor is to relay a message to him. I want to bring this up because this could be a small hint to the flashback that we're going to be getting with Nejire, potentially towards the next season or the final season of My Hero Academia during the big bombastic war that we're going to be having that is going to end the series. And speaking of other characters, I would like to also bring up the monologue that Uraraka has in this episode, as it was in the manga, is also done very well and is very faithful to the manga as well. From there, we actually get to cut back over to the Vestige world where we do get the explanation of what's going on and how these individuals who are presumed to be dead are alive in this moment. And I really like to say that the anime does justice for the explanation that is given in the manga, and it's done very well in the anime. and how they add a word that allows it to flow a little bit more for the understanding, which is transference, and how the explanation for how quirks are able to hold the consciousness of the previous users in them is like having an organ transplant that has the memories of the previous user being implanted into the new host. So I think this explanation is done fairly well in the anime, as well as I want to point out something new that the anime does to clarify what happens in the manga. Because the anime shows the depiction of All For One trying to take One For All, with the entire Vestige world going red, as well as cracks appearing on the ground to appear as if the world itself is decaying. I really like this addition because it really does bring a dichotomy or a contrast to show which individuals are in control in this moment, because we also get to see a very similar scene of when Nana Shimura, as well as the first user, coming in to try and retake control, where the world itself transitions back to what it was, being more purplish and black than red and black. And that indication of the shift is also done with lights appearing inside of the users of One For All to show that they are also taking control of the situation more. So I really like that addition to the anime, as well as just getting to see their interactions between All For One and the One For All users is just amazing, and I love it. But another change from the manga that we see is actually a change for when All For One begins retaking control and trying to steal One For All. And how we get to see that in the anime, the ground begins to break, leaving a small platform for Deku, Nana Shimura, and the first user, and how he pretty much says that Deku is not worthy of One For All, to which the users of One For All heavily disagrees with. And with this disagreement, we do get another added moment where, as Deku is trying to get up as he's being motivated by the previous users of One For All, we see the smile on All For One's face go from a smile to a frown, showing that Deku is worthy of One For All and is able to begin to push All For One back out of the Vestige world, as we see that the Vestiges themselves begin to turn into light within their respective colors and go back into Deku, as we see that Deku has the resolve to finally jump in this world that he was unable to move in the first time and push One For All out. And as that happens, we get a reversed look at the rainbow tunnel transition, indicating that we are leaving the Vestige world and going back into the real world. So it's just small touches like that that really adds to the anime and really adds to these scenes that cannot really be portrayed, that aren't really in the manga itself, and really adds and improves them. And as we return back to the world, we get a big explosion that is very much similar to what was in the manga, with the added rainbow coloring on the edges as an indication of One For All being in charge. As well as we get another added scene of Deku beginning to pass out because of all of the damage and all of the stress that has happened to him in this battle. And from there, we're beginning to cut towards the end of the episode, where we get a little bit more focus on the League of Villains. And we also get to see that Toga has her own personal monologue about how she feels about the situation, how she feels about Jin's death, and whether or not her question of the heroes killing Jin and wanting to kill her, how she needs to ask this question to the people that she cares about most. Because we do get some added scenes of some more random heroes going around saving civilians, as we cut over back to the League of Villains, as Toga finally discovers where Uraraka is and begins to set out, as the League of Villain members allow her to do so, as we get a very cool interaction of Spinner and a very cool scene of Spinner smiling as Toga leaves, and that the League of Villains for the most part approves of her decision because they knew for a fact that they couldn't stop her. Overall, when it comes to Spinner's speech in this moment, I think it's done extremely well and really emphasizes why the League of Villains are great villains in the world of My Hero Academia. From there, we do cut over to seeing Uraraka doing her job as a hero, saving Froppy as well as some civilians, as a random woman comes up to her and asks her to go and save her husband. And as Uraraka is gaining the resolve to do her job and save people, it is revealed that that old woman is actually Toga, how Toga leads Uraraka into an abandoned house where we get a very tense scene. And I cannot do the scene justice, but what this scene does is amazing. It is very tense, it's very quiet. You can only hear the noises of Uraraka's footsteps and the echoes of Toga's speech as it's coming from all places in this house. and how the silence is only broken by the moment that Toga jumps from the roof or the ceiling and attacks Uraraka and pins her to the ground. As we have Toga trying to ask her question to Uraraka, Uraraka responds with her own resolve as the episode ends with her saying that she is going to be taking down and arresting Toga in this moment. And with the episode ending, there are a few things that I want to bring up that I didn't bring up in the more breakdown proper. And that is few of the panels that were cut from this section of chapters that are not in the anime. And for the most part, some of these panels are very minimal. One of the panels is that Deku attacked Shigaraki in this moment and may have done damage to his face, but we did not get that in the episode. As well as a single panel of Compress giving Toga her clothing and equipment, which neither of those are big moments to really worry about. However, there is a cut page from the episode that is very important to what's to come, but it may come in the next episode, but it's pretty much two individuals talking on a plane and potentially having the return of a major character that is going to be very important towards the end of this war. So I really hope that they didn't cut that out and that they're going to replace it in the upcoming episode. But yeah, this is pretty much my breakdown for My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 10. What did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What was your favorite part of the episode? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below, leave a like on the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!